As John walked in the graveyard, he felt the cold air on his body, as his breath could be visible in the air. It was dark outside. He must have been up late and lost track of time. His watch said it was 1 in the morning. He looked around and saw the graves. The dead. People who'd passed on. Some say to heaven. Others just believe people cease existing. He didn't know what he believed, and doesn't often put much thought into it, but he was now. He couldn't shake the feeling of being alone in life. Dead wife, no children, all his known living family members disowned him. His brother died alongside him during his gang days. He had his cat, but that was it. Isolation left him feeling lonely. Whores didn't do it for him. He knew this. He tried. There was an eerie fog all over the graveyard as he walked about it. How peculiar, as the weather hadn't predicted such things, and the weather wasn't very unpredictable where he lived. He noticed the names on people's graves. He found 2 ironic. Mary Kirkpatrick and Susan Blum. Mary Sue. He attempted a chuckle, but it didn't even creep out of his mouth. He stopped at his wife's grave. Julie's was right beside it, on the left. Strangely ironic, after all this, their graves were right beside one another. Yet John wondered if it was fate. There he went, getting philosophical again. Figures. He didn't know what he was supposed to be looking for. Suddenly, he felt like he wasn't alone. Something was watching him, but he couldn't make out what. He was trained to act normal, though, and he did. Then the figure appeared above him. It was the Phantom, the same one from before, and a nearby tree behind him. He turned to see the Phantom. Something didn't feel right. The Phantom looked different this time. He wasn't wearing his cloak, but normal street clothes. A jacket, without a hood, that was cloth-based, much like a sweatshirt, but more jacket-like, with a zipper as well. It was black in color. He had green jeans that looked like they were worn out and old, yet clean. He had no feet. He barely had arms, as they seemed to vanish. In fact, his whole appearance reminded John of a ghost. His face looked like a human head with a sock over his head. Maybe sock wasn't the right word. Maybe ski mask without eyes or a mouth. And it was really clean. You couldn't see any distinguishable features. It's like he had no face under the covering he had over his head. The Phantom didn't say anything. He just stared at him, glancing, watching. Then he swooped down and picked John up. John tried fighting, but it didn't do him any good. This felt rather silly to John, yet why did he feel scared? The figure then threw him into an open grave and began to shovel dirt into the grave. He was attempting to bury John alive. He gathered his strength to climb out of the hole, as it was just a little deeper than he was tall. As he began to climb out, the figure poked his eyes and pushed him back in. When he looked around, he saw decaying heads in the earth around him, with their eyes still open. John freaked out as he pulled out his gun and shot at the Phantom. It, of course, went straight through him, but John managed to climb out in the meantime and began to flee from the graveyard. Suddenly he heard a voice. "John, why'd you let me die? John." He turned around and saw his brother. His brother had a rotting body and one eye, but had on clean clothes despite that. His brother's voice was really calm. "John, why'd you let me die? You don't deserve to live. You should die, John. You really should. I know you'll just love it, even though I don't like it very much." John was ghostly pale as he said,
"No, I don't want to die."
His brother shouted, "I hate you! Why didn't you die instead of me? Why didn't you let them shoot me, John? Why? Why didn't you save me?"
It wasn't my fault. There was nothing I could do."
"You goddamn liar! You could have jumped in front of the bullet. You could have been there more for me instead of me having to join some goddamn crime organization just to fucking spend time with you." His brother pulled out a gun and fired at John. John instinctively jumped down and shot his brother in the chest. The wound gushed as his brother fell to the ground. The brother grinned as he said, "You know better than the men that killed me." John shouted, yet he couldn't even hear his own screaming. It was like something was drowning out the noise. Tears went down his eyes as his heart raced. He ran until he stopped at another open grave. There were people down there, with their mouths loosely sewn shut. They were rotting corpses, but they were moving like the living. Each had their eyes completely sewn shut, and they moaned. The moans had no words, but it felt like they were saying something. Suddenly John felt like he had to join them. Before he knew it, he was in the hole as he felt them open up his insides and eat them. Then he blinked, and suddenly he saw his own mouth shut. He was bald, and he looked at his body. It looked just like theirs. He was one of them now. He watched as a normal man jumped into the hole, and he joined them as he fed on the man's flesh. They tore and ate at him. John felt he should have been disgusted, but he was suddenly compelled to do like the others were. Then he blinked. He woke up in his office, sitting at his desk. His body was normal. He had a full head of hair. All felt normal. Yet, what he just experienced felt so real. He was taken aback by this. On his computer screen which was all black, otherwise, were the words, "It wasn't a dream." He sat at his desk as the screen blinked. He was baffled by what was written. What did it mean? He felt claustrophobic. He couldn't just sit in his office another second. He got up and went outside, shaky. What had he seen? His brother. He had to kill his own brother to get through that. But was it just a dream? He didn't understand what was happening to him anymore. He went outside for a walk. It had begun to snow. It was almost sunrise. He walked as he saw the pink, beautiful sky.
How funny to see such a beautiful sky at a time like this.
The cold, bitter air as the snow fell wasn't very pleasant, but it was pretty. He couldn't shake the feeling of complete isolation. He thought of his childhood, his more innocent days, playing alongside the girl he felt loved. A friend she was, that he knew for a few years in his childhood. Then one day, she just lived. It hurt him. That was the first time he had his heart broken. He thought about his days in the gang, his failure to save his own brother, his family finding out that he and his brother had been disowning him completely. As he walked back home, he saw the sky change a blood-red color. As a long-haired woman appeared before him, she was floating in midair with blood all over her skin. She seemed angry by her voice. She took off her mask, which looked a lot like the one the Phantom had first worn in the theater, but slightly different, and he saw her face. It was the girl he had liked in his childhood. She stood before him, but she looked angry. In fact, pissed off. She had long brown hair that floated around in the air. She looked at John and said,
"Where's the Raven?"
John blinked.
Meg? Megan Ryan?
That isn't my name anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. I'm Dove. You will address me as only that name.
She opened her mouth and bore fangs, as suddenly the air around him felt stagnant. She snapped her fingers, and two men appeared beside her. To the left of her was a large round man with a mask made of human faces. Yet you could tell his own flesh was rotting as well, as he had his penis hanging out of his pants and no shirt. The man to the right was thin, with rotten skin and white eyes, and he was tall and lanky. He had 4 arms and made a noise from his mouth that sounded like an insect. She commanded them to attack John. He punched the first one, and the other one, the skinny one, came around back to hit him. But John easily dispatched them, however, both with a roundhouse kick that connected to their faces. They moved back, but got back up. Dove sighed as she laughed.
This man knows nothing. Let us leave him. We will find Raven somewhere else.
John managed to utter words.
Stop.
Dove looked at him.
Normally my job is to frighten people like you and torment them throughout their lives, and their only mercy is death. Consider yourself lucky today isn't that day.
John muttered, It's me, John. John blinked.
John?
She looked surprised, then quickly changed her expression. As her face changed shape into a pale white face with no eyes, as her skin became so thin and malnourished it was as if it was just skin in her skull.
John!
She looked at him with anger, but John didn't understand why. He'd never done anything to Megan. What was going on? She lashed at him, as her hands had her fingers grow into long claws with blood on the tips. She slashed at him, and he just barely managed to dodge each attack. John.
What did I do?
She continued to swing at him with fierce anger. She was apparently angry at his memory, but then 2 more phantoms appeared on either side of him. The one on his left had a white mask with a heart shape on it, and fierce, sharp eye holes on the mask that looked like he was meant to be the more monster-like one of the group. That also helped he was the largest, and let out a small growl that reminded him of a lion. The one on the right had the only non-white phantom mask of all the phantoms he'd ever seen. This one was green and looked like wood, but had a large nose, not in length, but in how high up the nose ridge ended, and eye holes that seemed to pierce into darkness. This one was slender in build, but had muscle to him. They looked ghastly, despite their simplistic appearance. He could feel what it felt like to be around them. It felt like dying. John was panicked. He knew there was no way he could survive this. He turned around and ran. He heard moans and wails as they chased him. He ran as he thought on how confused he was. Why did Megan become one of these phantoms? How? What was she so angry at him about? He ran and stopped only when he realized he was lost, and it had become dark again for no real reason, as the snow still continued to fall, by now forming snow under his feet. As he panted, he realized they weren't behind him anymore, but now he had no idea where he was. He walked along the sides of where he was. He was in a town, but it wasn't his home place, or anywhere he felt familiar. He looked in his door window. No one was in it. It was isolated. He moved on to a barber shop, opened up, and no one was in it. Suddenly, he wept. He cried as a sudden wave of sadness over his body. He cried. He felt like something was getting to him, and he couldn't put it into words. He sat down right there and didn't know what to do. He's alone, the phantoms are after him, and now he's lost. To be continued.